Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. Story 1. Pachamama, the earth that receives. There are lands where the earth is not beneath life, but part of it, where the ground is not something crossed without thought, but something that listens, holds, and responds. In the traditions of the Andes, the earth is known as Pachamama, not simply as soil or land, but as a living presence, a mother who sustains all that grows and all that returns. To exist within such a world is to understand that nothing is taken without acknowledgement, that what is received must, in time, be given back. Offerings are made not as ritual alone, but as continuation of balance, food, drink, coca leaves, small tokens placed into the earth with intention. The act is not hurried. It is done with care, often accompanied by quiet words or held silence, as though the moment itself carries weight beyond what can be spoken. A small hollow is made in the soil, or a stone is lifted and replaced, creating a space where the offering can be received. The ground takes it without visible change, yet it is not empty. It holds what is given, not as something lost, but as something returned to where it belongs. The gesture is not one of surrender, but of recognition, that life flows through a cycle that does not begin or end with the invitation, but continues through all that lives and all that sustains it. In the tellings, those who live closely with the land understand that this relationship is not symbolic, but active. When the earth is honored, when offerings are made and respect is maintained, there is a steadiness that follows, not as something granted, but as something preserved. Crops rise as they should, the rains come in their time, and the paths that wind through mountain and valley remain clear enough to be walked. This is not spoken of as a reward, but as alignment, as though the act of giving keeps a movement between what is taken and what is returned in balance. Those who forget, who take without acknowledgement, may find that something shifts. The land does not strike back, yet it no longer responds with the same openness. The soil may grow less certain in its yield, the journey across familiar ground may feel unsettled, and the quiet confidence that once accompanied daily life begins to thin. These changes are not sudden, nor are they always named directly, yet they are understood. The absence of offering is not seen as a single act, but as a break in continuity, a moment where the thread between human life and the living earth has been allowed to loosen. To restore it is not to demand forgiveness, but to return to awareness, to begin again in the simple act of giving, of recognizing what sustains without asking. Over time, the act of offering becomes less about the objects placed into the ground and more about the understanding it carries. To give to Pachamama is to acknowledge that nothing stands alone, that every harvest, every step, every breath exists within a system that continues, whether it is recognized or not. The offering does not create the connection, it reveals it. Those who practice it begin to move differently, not in caution, but in awareness. They come to see the land not as a resource, but as a presence, something that holds memory, something that receives and returns in ways not always visible. The ground beneath them is no longer neutral, but part of an ongoing exchange, one that does not end when the offering is placed and covered. It continues in the way they walk, in the way they take, in the way they remember to give again. And so the act remains quiet and enduring, not because it is required, but because it keeps something whole. What is given returns, what is taken is remembered, and the balance between them is what allows life to continue without fracture. In this way, the offering is not an ending, but a continuation, a small and steady act that affirms the place of the human within the greater movement of the earth, where nothing is separate and nothing is ever truly lost. Story 2. Gaia, the ground that bears all. Before there were roads to follow or boundaries to mark where one's place ended and another began, there was the earth itself, whole and unbroken, holding all things within it. In the ancient Greek tellings, this earth is known as Gaia, not as a distant figure, but as the ground from which everything rises and to which everything returns. She is not described as separate from the land, but as the land itself, mountains, valleys, soil, and stone, all part of a single presence that sustains what grows and receives what falls away. To stand upon the earth is to stand within her, though this is not always recognized. Life moves across her surface, takes from her, builds upon her, yet she remains constant, bearing weight without protest, holding the living and the dead in equal measure. There is no place that exists outside of her, no path that does not cross her, no act that does not leave some mark upon what she holds. Though she does not speak in a voice that is heard, she is understood as aware, not in the way of watchfulness, but in the way of presence, enduring, encompassing, and unbroken. In the old accounts, there is no need to seek Gaia, for there is nowhere she is not. What is required is recognition, the understanding that every step rests upon something that is not inert, but sustaining. When this awareness is held, actions begin to take on a different weight. To plant, to build, to move, to take. None of these are done in isolation, but with the body of something that continues beyond the moment. Those who lived with this understanding did not speak of control over the earth, but of living within it, acknowledging that what is taken must exist within a larger balance. When this balance is maintained, life unfolds without fracture. The land yields what it can, holds what it must, and continues its quiet work of sustaining. When it is disregarded, when the ground is treated as though it carries no presence, something begins to strain. The soil may still hold, the structures may still stand, yet there is a sense that the harmony beneath them has been unsettled, that the connection between action and consequence has been forgotten. This is not described as immediate collapse, but as a slow shifting, a quiet misalignment that grows over time. To understand Gaia is not to change the earth, but to change the way one stands upon it. The recognition does not alter her nature, but it alters the relationship held with her. Those who carry this awareness move with a steadiness that does not come from certainty, but from connection. They understand that nothing is held without cost, that nothing is given without return, and that every action enters into a system that does not end with the individual. The ground beneath them is no longer unnoticed, but felt as part of a larger whole, something that supports not only their steps, but the continuity of all that follows. In this way, the earth is not simply a place of living, but a presence that shapes how life is lived. And so Gaia remains, not distant, not removed, but constant beneath all movement, holding each step, each change, each return, steady and unchanged, whether recognized or not, yet always there, bearing all without needing to be seen. Story 3, the oak, the roots that hold. They are trees that stand as more than growth from the soil, rising not only in height but in presence, holding a stillness that gathers around them like a quiet boundary. In the traditions of the old Celtic lands, the oak is such a tree, known not only for its strength, but for the way it stands between worlds, its roots deep in the unseen earth, its branches reaching into the open air, and its trunk holding the place where both meet. Those who come upon an ancient oak do not pass it without awareness, for it is said that such trees carry memory, not in the way of thought, but in the way of endurance. Seasons move through them, storms bend them, time marks them, yet they remain, holding their ground with a steadiness that does not need to be declared. To stand beneath one is to feel that stillness, not imposed, but present, as though the space itself has been shaped by the long standing of something that does not move, yet continues. In the tellings, the oak is not described as speaking, yet is understood to hold a form of knowing, one that does not need voice to be recognized. Those who live near such trees come to understand them not as objects within the land, but as part of its structure, something that supports not only what is visible, but what lies beneath. The roots of the oak are said to reach far into the ground, anchoring it in ways that cannot be seen, drawing from depths that remain hidden. What grows above is sustained by what extends below, and the balance between the two is what allows the tree to endure. In this way, the oak becomes more than itself. It becomes a reflection of how life holds together. When the roots are deep, what stands above can weather change. When the roots are shallow, even strong growth may falter. This understanding is carried not as instruction, but as observation, something learned through time spent within the presence of what does not shift easily. Those who sought clarity or steadiness would come to such places, not to ask, but to be still, to stand within the same space and allow the quiet to shape them as it had shaped the tree. Over time, the oak is understood not as a guide that leads forward, but as a place that holds firm. It does not direct the path, yet it reveals what allows a path to be walked without breaking. The roots that hold it in place do not restrict it. They give it the strength to rise, to extend, to continue through seasons that would undo what is less grounded. Those who carry this understanding move differently, not seeking to stand as the tree does, but recognizing the need for what holds beneath them. The land remains as it always has, yet it is no longer seen as surface alone. It is depth, connection, and support, something that sustains without needing to be noticed. So the oak stands unchanged in its place, not asking to be understood, yet offering something to those who come near. The strength is not found in what reaches upward alone, but in what is held unseen, and that what endures does so because it is rooted in something deeper than what can be seen. Story 4. Ganga, the river that carries all. There are rivers that do not move as water alone, but as presence, carrying within their current a continuity that extends beyond what the eye can follow. In the traditions of the Indian subcontinent, the river Ganga is understood not simply as a river, but as a living flow that holds both the visible and the unseen within its course. It is said that she does not originate in a single place, but descends from a higher realm. Her waters brought down to the earth so that what lives here may be sustained, cleansed, and carried forward. To stand at her edge is not only to face moving water, but to encounter something that receives without resistance and continues without pause. The river does not hold what enters it, it carries it, moving everything within its current toward a destination that is not seen from where it begins. Those who come to her do so with understanding that what is given to the river does not remain as it was. It enters into a flow that transforms not through force, but through continuation. In the tellings, the act of entering the river or offering something to it is not approached lightly. It is understood that the water holds a power not of control, but of passage. Those who step into it do not stand against it, but allow themselves to be within it, even briefly, feeling the movement that does not stop. Offerings are made, flowers, ashes, small tokens placed upon the surface, each one taken into the current without hesitation. There is no movement in which the river pauses to receive. It accepts by continuing, by carrying forward what is given without holding it in place. In this way, it is said that the river cleanses not by removing what has been, but by moving it into something else, something that does not remain fixed. Those who come to the river understand that what they release is not lost, but transformed through movement. The water does not return what it has taken, yet it does not erase it either. It becomes part of the ongoing flow, inseparable from what continues beyond the point of release. To know the river in this way is to understand that stillness is not the only form of grounding. There is a steadiness within movement, a continuation that exists not in remaining, but in following without interruption. The river does not seek to hold form, yet it does not cease to exist. It is constant, not because it is unchanged, but because it continues. Those who recognize this carry a different sense of connection, one that does not deepen on holding or preserving, but on allowing and trusting in what moves forward. The banks remain, the current passes, and the cycle continues without needing to be guided. In this way, the river becomes more than a place. It becomes an understanding. What is released does not end. It enters into a larger movement, one that carries it beyond what can be seen, yet keeps it within the whole. And so the river flows, unchanged in its purpose, holding within its motion the quiet truth that what moves forward does not disappear, but becomes part of something that never stops.